Exactly. Then you take a little pause, and what are you going to wait for? You're going to wait for everybody to
stand up.
Right. And then you're going to say what?
Color guard advance.
And then you take a pause and you wait for them to walk down the aisle and up onto the stage. Okay. And the next thing you're going to say is
Hand salute. Those not in uniform, please put your right hand over your heart.
Then just a very small pause because it doesn't take people very long to do that. Okay. And then
Please say with me the Pledge of Allegiance.
okay, now that part isn't written down. You just have to say it. You know it though, because you say it at school, right? Okay. So you're going to say it, and everyone's going to say it with you. And then the next part is
2.
and everyone's going to drop their hand. Okay.
Color guard dismissed. The audience.
Oh wait, what about color guard post the colors? Okay, here. Color guard post the colors. Okay, color guard post the colors. That's when they put the flag into the stand. Okay? Color guard post the colors, and then you're going to listen, and they're going to pop it right into the stand. And then the last thing you're going to say is?
Color guard dismissed. The audience may be seated.
Perfect. And then after you say that, that's when you can walk right out. Okay? Okay, you got it. Good job.
Was she here? Elise?
They're waiting for one person, so a few minutes late. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm normally not late, but I was in an office that has a clock that's 5 minutes slow. So I apologize to all of you, and I'll turn off my phone. So now we know there's a slow clock in City Hall. Okay, everybody, I'm going to call the City Council meeting of March 11th, 2020 to order. It's nice to see that people are still out and about. Thank you for being here. I'm going to defer to Cub Scout Pack 227 to lead us in the flag salute tonight. Thank you, boys, for coming.
Attention. Will the audience please rise? Color guard advance. Those not in uniform, please put your right hand over your heart. Please say with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard post the colors. Color guard dismissed. The audience may be seated.
Thank you so much, Cub Scout Pack 227. I'm going to defer to our city clerk to take the roll call tonight.
Good evening. Councilmember Anstead?
Here?
Councilmember Lopez?
Here.
Let the record reflect that Councilmember Northrup is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Weber? Mayor Buckley Weber?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have no report of closed session tonight because we had no closed session. I'd like to call for a motion and second to approve tonight's agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone Anyone opposed? Nope. So we're just going to, the agenda is approved. We have no presentations tonight, so we're going to move on to the Intergovernmental Special Purpose Committee and departmental reports. And it's always a pleasure to welcome Adam Haverstock from the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce update. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The feeling is mutual. I do like coming and reporting to you all here at the City Council meeting. And a quick thank you. Mayor Buckley Weber attended our gala on Friday night, and I think she'll tell you it was a great time. So thank you for coming. It was a lot of fun.
Sold out crowd.
Sold out, yeah. It was a really good one. So a couple items for you. First, nominations are open for the 40 Under 40 Awards. These nominees can be nominated by anyone in the community. They don't need to be chamber members. What they do need to be is under the age of 40 on the date of the event, and they also need to be a resident or live or work within Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village, or Agoura Hills. So you can make those nominations on the Chamber's website, conejochamber.org, and I think I sent an email out to all of you with a copy of the link so you can make those nominations if you like. March 27th, which is 2 Fridays from now, or 2 weeks from Friday, is going to be the last day to nominate, so that's kind of coming up, so please make sure to make those nominations. And the 40 Under 40 Awards are going to be on Thursday, May 7th, so you'll be hearing more about that. Our new issue of Conejo View magazine is out, and so I hope you all got a copy of it in your mailboxes. The cover issue is about our new chamber CEO, Danielle Borgia. I think you all have had a chance on a couple of occasions to meet her, but we did a Q&A for our business community. There is an article in here talking about new laws affecting California businesses in 2020. And we also did an article specifically on Assembly Bill 5, the law that passed last year to change, for the most part, independent contractors over to employees. And we actually brought in Karen Gabler, who is an employment law attorney, to write that article so she can talk very specifically to how that's going to affect our members. And so a really great article to take a look at. And then finally, we did a business profile on the Sleep Shop here in Agoura Hills. We're going to have a mixer next Wednesday evening, and it's going to be here in the city. It's going to be at the new BL Saloon, the Borderline space. So it's going to be Wednesday, March 18th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And it's open to the public. It's $15 per person, and chamber members get a discount. And then finally, I wanted to make a couple notes about the Chamber's response to the coronavirus, because I'm sure that's on the top of a lot of people's minds. We have compiled a list of resources on conejochamber.org for businesses and the public. There are some resources that we've found from California Chamber and U.S. Chamber that talk specific to businesses, how to get access to things like bridge loans and funding. So, you know, if they're struggling during this time, how to be successful, cleanliness practices for your business. And then also public resources, which include, I know the city's compiled a page on their website for that as well, and so we do link to that resource on our website. Since the overall threat of the coronavirus still remains very low in our area, we are going to continue with all of our scheduled events. So no cancellations to speak of. But of course, that situation is evolving, and so as that continues, we'll reassess. But as of now, everything is going according to our schedule. Everything is going to continue as planned. In fact, I'll tell you, we're doing our breakfast, our monthly networking breakfast up at the new Yarrow Family YMCA in Westlake Village on Friday. We have like full house attendance. So if anything, people are still out, you know, doing business, getting stuff done, which is really great news. And unless there are any questions, that does conclude my report this evening.
Any questions for Adam?
Adam, I just wanted to ask you, whether a gentleman named Gary Gentile from Agoura Fitness reached out to you or not.
I don't think so, no.
I just wanted to ask, and I'd ask maybe that you reach out to him. He's the owner of Agoura Fitness, and he just wanted to talk to you about trying to coordinate some of the businesses here in Agoura a little bit.
Sure, would love to.
Thank you.
Agoura Fitness, got it.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
Very much. And good job on the gala.
Thank you. Yeah, I take zero credit. We have an amazing events team. They did a wonderful job. I was just kind of an extra set of hands that day, but our team does do a great job. I was very proud of that event. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. This is not the norm for the city of Agoura Hills, but I have had a request from a special guest tonight to move forward since he needs to get to his own city council meeting. So I'm going to move to public comments for a moment and then come back to our Clean Power Alliance update and our 2020 census update. I'd like to welcome the Honorable James Bazagian. He's a council member in the city of Calabasas.
Mayor Pro Tem, please don't shortchange
Oh, Mayor
me.
Pro Tem, thank you.
I'm here tonight as an individual, though. Avalon Bay owns a 600-unit apartment complex in Calabasas. These apartments were constructed prior to incorporation of the city of Calabasas. As part of the entitlements, 120 apartments were covenanted to remain as affordable units for a specified time period. However, there was one proviso which allowed Avalon to accelerate payment of its bond obligations early and terminate the affordable housing program. Purely for financial reasons, Avalon took advantage of this clause and unilaterally ended the affordable program there 10 years before it was set to expire. Then, instead of coming to the Calabasas City Council with a development proposal, Avalon hired a prominent real estate law firm and a large passel of expensive consultants to secretly devise a plan to circumvent our city's land use ordinances. Last year, Avalon submitted a petition for a ballot initiative that sought to construct 161 additional market rate apartments in exchange for keeping 80 of its existing units as affordable housing for a limited time period. The Avalon Initiative, also known as Measure N, sought to undermine and usurp local control of land use decision-making, which, after all, is the primary reason why Calabasas incorporated 29 years ago. The initiative was an all-or-nothing proposition, disallowing for any level of input from Calabasas citizens. As such, it was entirely devoid of transparency and thoughtful consideration. In addition to numerous state and federal regulations, the city of Calabasas has taken great pride in promulgating many of its own rules to provide for meaningful levels of public input into land use decision-making. Avalon ignored each and every one of these carefully crafted protocols. From start to finish, Avalon ran the most aggressive, deceptive, and misleading campaign in Calabasas history. Avalon hired packs of paid mercenaries to invade our streets for months, falsely projecting to our residents that its only concern was to provide housing for the 80 families which they themselves sought to kick out of their homes. Avalon's manipulation of its own tenants, who are the most vulnerable and least powerful in this multifaceted battle, was reprehensible and deplorable. Worst of all, passage of the initiative would have set a horrible precedent. If approved, our region would be inundated with similar proposals from every large property owner in the Las Virgenes-Conejo Valley region. These property owners, mostly large corporations, would each spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to sponsor identical initiatives. If successful, before long, we would suffer the kind of uncontrolled and unplanned development, which, ironically, is the polar opposite of what motivates people to live here. Our communities would be transformed into unrecognizable, unplanned urban sprawl, a place where no one will want to live. During the course of this campaign, it is estimated that Avalon spent approximately $1 million to promote Measure N. This whopping figure likely represents more money than has been spent during all other Calabasas municipal elections combined. By contrast, the No on N campaign managed to raise some $6,000 to defend the city against this ghastly onslaught. And unlike the paid political operatives who descended upon our community in droves to bully and intimidate our residents, the No on N campaign was powered entirely by a dedicated core of local volunteers. But on Election Day, the results were clear. No on It Measure N captured overwhelming 78% of the vote, easily prevailing in every precinct throughout Calabasas, even the one covering Avalon Bay. I'll conclude my remarks by saying that I'm going to give you something tonight that we did not have last year, which is a simple warning. The same thing could easily happen to Agoura Hills. Please be prepared, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. We appreciate you coming by. So now I'm going to flip back to the Intergovernmental Special Purpose Committee and departmental reports. But let me just tell, because I see people in the audience here tonight, I want you to, if you would like to speak on a matter, we're going to come back to public comments, and we're going to be taking speakers on matters that are not on the agenda. So please just fill out a speaker card in the lobby and give it to our city clerk over there. And then you'll have an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. So if you haven't filled one out, go ahead and fill one out. And when we come back after the when we get back to public comments for matters not on the agenda, then you'll have your opportunity to speak. Because let me point out to you that This is a report that we're getting on the Clean Power Alliance update, so we're getting a report on it. It's not actually, there's no decision to be made tonight, but we definitely want you to give us your comments. It's just considered comments, matters not on the agenda. And so we do want to hear what you have to say, but we're now going to be just getting the report and the update right now. So thank you. I'd like to introduce Representatives Ten Bardaki and Jennifer Giles from the Clean Power Alliance, who will be making a presentation to discuss the potential for the city to consider changing its current default energy tier, currently at the 36% renewable tier, to another renewable tier. They will also be presenting information on their residential time of use, which is called TOU transition. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Weber. Thank you, council members, for having us here this evening. It's one of the reasons your Calabasas person has to run is we're also on the agenda over there. So with the same question. It's CPA in the Conejo Valley tonight. We were invited to talk about this as sort of a report and an update of it. Some of it is just because there's a deadline for this year if you wanted to do something. So we wanted to come out and provide the information, ahead of that deadline. But it's not I just want to note, it's not a forever deadline. This is an annual process that you all can consider. So just a little bit of reminder, let's see, yay. A little bit of reminder. Clean Power Alliance is a joint powers authority made up of 32 2 counties and 30 cities across LA and Ventura counties. We have approximately 1 million customers. We are the largest community choice aggregation entity in the nation, but also in the state of California, which has the most active program. Among those million customers, Agoura Hills has just over 7,500 accounts. So when we talk about customers, we tend to talk about accounts, and just over 1,500 commercial accounts. As you see the logos up there, our geographic footprint, our socioeconomic diversity is pretty large. We go as far north as Ojai and City of Ventura, and as far south as Downey and Paramount and Whittier, and we have very strong representation here in the Conejo Valley. Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village will start serving customers there in June. Calabasas, Agoura Hills, unincorporated, Malibu, sort of everyone, Simi Valley, Moore Park. We have a really strong representation here. And I'll say that you also have strong representation on our board with Councilmember Klein Lopez, a diligent attendee as well as a member of our legislative and regulatory committee, and we appreciate her service. Just as a reminder of how this works, we provide generation services. SCE continues to provide the transmission and delivery. So as folks have gotten their bills, they'll see it split between the transmission and delivery side of the bill, which is about 50% of the bill, and then the other half is the generation, the electricity. Our customers have a choice between us and Edison for the generation. They don't have a choice around who provides the lines and wires, and that's important for a couple of reasons as we think about what's happening to rates and financial impacts over the next 5 years, which is that the distribution side of the bill, which is the lines and the wires, will go up much more quickly than the generation rates in general. And that's because of all of the investments that are being made to the grid for hardening, for wildfire preparedness, to try to limit either the cause of wildfires or the proactive PSPS shutoffs that have plagued this neck of our service territory. So that much of that, those new rates have been already approved by the PUC or are in the process of being approved. And so we'll start to see that ratio of rates between generation and distribution start to change a little bit from the current 50-50, and it's going to become more like 60-40 over the next few years, regardless of what happens to our rates or what decisions you may or may not make. So again, I came out tonight because there is an April 1st deadline if you wanted to change your default level for implementation in October this year. If you wanted to look at an implementation in October of next year, that is 2021, the deadline would be January 1st of this year. So we have 3 rate options. We have a lean power, clean power, and 100% green power. They come at different price points and they have different environmental attributes. So lean power, which has 36% renewables, which is currently what what Agoura Hills defaulted in, is our lowest price product. It's 1% to 2% discount compared to Edison's base rates. And it provides currently 36% renewable energy content. And our commitment is to continue to keep pace with Edison on that renewables level. So think about it as, same product, cheaper price than what Edison will default people into. We have the clean power rate, which is 50% renewables, so higher renewable content, lower carbon intensity, at what is essentially parity with Edison. So think about that. You've got one is same product, lower price. This is same price, better product. And then finally, there's the 100% green power, which is offered at a 7 to 9% premium. I'll note that these 7 to 9% premiums are on the total bill, so that's transmission and distribution as well as energy together. So we're now a year into residential enrollment and about 9 months into commercial enrollment, so we can kind of see where, what the customer behavior is here in Agoura Hills as well as across our service territory. So if you remember, people, they were automatically opted in, but they could and they continue to be able to opt out and go back to Edison. People continue to do that to this day, although our customer base is pretty much at steady state. They can also change their rates within our service at any time. They can opt, in your case, if they want the lowest price, they were already there, but they can opt up at any time, change their rate at their next meter read cycle. So what we see here in what has happened is your opt-out rates are about the same between residential and non-residential, 6.8, 6.9%. That is just about a percentage point higher than what we see as the overall opt-out rates among cities that defaulted in at the lean power rate. I think you can also see that those cities, and there are 10 of them that opted in at the 100% green power rate, saw, we're looking at about a 10% opt-out rate. It's not that much difference in terms of percentage points, 4%. We thought internally that it was going to be much larger, but that's what people are generally sticking with what they were defaulted into. And I think that's the overall message, is that even though we offer a lot of these choices, people sort of generally are taking what they're given. You'll see that that's the opt-out. The other thing that's happening is people are not changing very much their rates within the program. You see a very low opt-up statistics, less than 1% across our service territory. And the most we see is in the 100% green power rate, people opting down to that cheaper rate. But again, it's less than 5%. Oops. So this is what each of the cities in our service territory have chosen as their default levels. You'll see we have 9 on the lean power. We have 11 on the 50%, the middle rate, the clean power one. And then we have currently 12 in the 100% green power rate. What I'll note there is we enrolled our customers in February and May with 10 at the 100% renewable energy rate. And since then, in advance of this deadline, we've had 2 cities, Malibu and Sierra Madre, who have decided to opt up. They were both at the 50% rate, and they decided to change their default to the 100% renewable rate. I'll note a couple of things about that 100% renewable rate. The first is we offer low-income protection. So if you are currently on CARE or FARA, which are the 2 low-income rates that are offered by both us and Edison, if you're on that rate and you go to 100% green, you do not experience a price increase. We fund that internally to give folks that same 100% green product at no additional cost. So that's one thing about that. The other thing is we, Clean Power Alliance, are financially indifferent to what rate people are on. We base these rates based on our cost of service generally. And so what you all do, what every city does, like we're not out here saying, you know, have a higher rate or a lower rate because it matters to us financially. That's really up to you, and we handle that, you know, internally with our financials. The other thing is, in terms of our customer programs, we're starting to really roll out and be robust about customer programs. We're doing electric vehicle charger rebates. We're doing demand shift, smart thermostat programs, where we'll be out with a community solar program soon. What rate you've chosen as your default, we don't discriminate about that either. This is really up to your choice about what you feel is best aligned with your community. Now, if I put my environmentalist hat on, which I wear most days, I will also say that, you know, the 100% renewable energy is the quickest way to reduce community-wide GHG, and it's also simple in that you as a city don't really have to spend money, you don't have to build bike lanes, you don't have to install EV chargers. It's really a simple fix, and I know you're in the process of looking at a climate action plan and all of that, so I imagine that it would come up high in the possibilities of things to do. Just a couple of things about the process. So I mentioned the April 1st date deadline, and then in future years it would be January. And then the actual rates would go up unless people made a different choice in October. And the October time is important because here in this part of the state, we have higher rates in the summer and lower rates in the winter, and the higher rates, and those come off in September. So October, people generally receive lower bills, and it sort of eases them into the transition of a higher rate. The other thing is we have committed to, if people do change their default, committed to both sending out notices ahead of time, much more customized than the original enrollment notices that came out, because this is sort of a decision that you all as a city would be making, but also you have some messaging about why you might change that we sort of are very customized, and we really are open to making those changes with you in terms of co-branding and all of that. The other piece to note is that if anyone already changed their rate, if anyone said, I want this rate, we would not change them in a default. They already made an election. We wouldn't change them in terms of what rate they were on. And obviously, people always have the choice to go to a different rate or go back to Edison. That always remains an option. So as I note, they'll have the same tools and ability to change rates, stay on their current one, or opt out, and that all either takes place on our website or via our call center. Some things about cost impacts on the residential side. So in this area, the average residential bill is about $110. Average residential electricity bill is $110 a month. And that's either on our clean rate or on SCE's default rate. Remember, those are the two parity ones. Right now, you're giving folks with the default generally about $1 a month discount with our lean power. It's about a $9 a month increase on average for the 100% green, which I will note Edison also has 50% and 100% green rates. Ours are substantially cheaper than theirs when looking at the overall thing. And I will also note that it's very much a goal of mine and the agency in general to try to reduce the premium of the 100% green rate over time. As we build and develop our own renewable energy supply rather than buying it out on the short-term market, those prices are significantly less expensive, and we will be able to, knock on wood, reduce that premium over time between the clean power and the 100% green power rate. So just a reminder on the products. Finally, I just wanted to note before we go, I'm sure there are questions. Before that, we were asked to give a little bit of an update on time of use default. So the state is requiring all of the investor-owned utilities to default residential customers into what are called time of use rates. So time of use rates, currently most residential customers are on what we call flat rates. It's the same price regardless of the time of day. Same kilowatt hour price regardless of the time of day. Commercial customers are already on what we call time of use rates, and what that does is it adjusts the rate based on the time of day that you're using it. And the reason for this is that the grid is changing, and between 4 and 9 in the evening, we see as much as a 10-fold difference in wholesale energy prices as we do at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we go out and we buy power at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to serve load at 2 in the afternoon, and the price might be $10 a megawatt hour. And then the sun goes down, the wind dies down, all of this renewable energy that we've built is going, and the gas-fired power plants are firing up. And then at 8 o'clock, we might be paying $100 a megawatt hour or more for dirty energy, where we were paying $10 a megawatt hour in the middle of the day for clean energy. So one of the things that the state is trying to do, both from a cost perspective as well as a emissions perspective, is shift when people are using energy. And this is a price signal to them to do that. Again, all commercial rates at this point are time of use. So the board made a decision in January, our board, to also default people into time of use rates in conjunction with Edison. They were going to do it for the delivery side of the bill no matter what, and so we thought, both for environmental, the price reasons, but also to minimize customer confusion, that we would do so at the same time. That will start to take place in late 2021. And the reason I sort of bring that up is, as you think about what you might want to be doing with your rates, there will be another change going on to people's sort of rate structures, if not their price, in late next year. One of the things that's happening, though, is that, again, people will have the choice to stay on their flat tier if they would like, and they will get bill protection for 12 months. So at the end of 12 months, they'll do a true-up, and they'll see, what would you have paid on your flat rate? And if you would have paid less on the flat rate, we'll write people a check so that they have a year's free trial run, and they can then adjust their behavior in the next year if they need to. So that was a lot of information, but I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Do any of my fellow council members have any questions? Councilmember Lopez?
So I don't really have a question because I sit in board meetings that range from 2 to 4 hours every month, which I love, do it lovingly. But I'm wondering, Ted, if you can share with our council 2 things that I think are important. The first one is with Senate Bill 100, the state is mandating that we all move to cleaner energy over a time period. And so Clean Power Alliance hopes to get there a little faster than the state mandate. So I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit where we're going anyway due to state mandates and how this might accelerate our ability to get there a little bit faster. And then my second issue that I think would be good for the council to know is you and I had talked about, and I know at the board meetings, you've explained that our lean option is not as clean as it used to be.
That's right.
And if you can help explain that a little bit, I think that would be helpful for the council to hear as well.
Sure. So on the first one, Senate Bill 100 requires electricity generation in California to be net zero on carbon by 2045. And it puts in various milestones along the way. And it also requires that 60% of the state's electricity, or every utility's electricity, be renewable by 2030. So in the first case, we, Clean Power Alliance, we feel like those compliance things are the floor, not the ceiling. So typically the investor-owned utilities are having that as kind of their ceiling, and they kind of just try to meet it. So we will meet as a whole, Clean Power Alliance, that 60% renewable energy goal for California 10 years early. And that's largely because there were so many customers in the 50% and the 100% renewables. So we're ahead of the game overall. What the change in default, or what having more customers on the 100% renewable energy rate really does, is it tells us that we should go out and we should build more renewable energy faster, which is the way that we actually reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions. It's not that we're out there buying existing renewable capacity. When our customers say, that's what we want, that's what we go do. I mean, think of it like maybe cell phone capacity, right? If AT&T gets more customers, they go out and they try to build more towers. They're responding to what the customers want. Similar, if our customers are telling us, if our communities are telling us that they want more new renewable energy development in the state of California, then we're going to go out and meet that demand and sign more long-term contracts. So that's a little bit about The other thing is that after that 60% per the state law, it doesn't say that it has to be renewable anymore. It could just be carbon-free, and that could be still a natural gas plant that had some offsets someplace else. It can be nuclear energy, which is carbon-free but not renewable. So that's a little bit of why we've really put emphasis on the renewables. It's because those things are what would get built here in California. The second question is, when we launched the 36% renewable product, it had we matched Edison on the renewables level. We also matched them by buying large hydropower on their large hydropower purchases as well. So it also reduced the carbon content of that product. Both for financial reasons and policy reasons, we've cut back on the purchases of large large hydropower, which is not, it's carbon-free, but it's not considered renewable. And we are also competing with Edison, who has nuclear energy from Palo Verde in their portfolio. And the board was very much, we don't want nuclear energy in our portfolio. And so they decided last month, or in February, to not try to compete with that nuclear energy that Edison has in its portfolio by spending extra money on hydropower. So at the end of the day, while we are matching them in renewables, the carbon content of the lean power product will be higher than Edison's base product, even though we're matching them on renewables. So as you think about, a carbon inventory that you might do, or any ways that you're looking to cut the greenhouse gas emissions, your baseline essentially will now be higher, or at least begin to be higher in 2021 when this procurement strategy goes into effect.
Yes, Councilmember Anstead.
So just a quick question.
Yeah.
The clean power that we're purchasing,
Yeah.
as the demand increases, the clean power is all coming from inside California, or is it coming from other states?
Yeah, so most of everything we purchase is here in California. We do have one wind project that we're developing out in Arizona by the Hoover Dam. So we're taking advantage of the existing transmission infrastructure around Hoover to import the energy directly into California. But the rest of the projects that we are developing are all here in California, and mostly here in Southern California.
Is there any that you could, it's interesting that you say here in Southern California, any in our, within 25 or 50 miles of us that we can observe?
Yes, yeah. So we have a wind project in out by Mojave. It's like, those wind turbines when you're going out to Mammoth and you make that right turn on 14, and there's all those wind turbines. So some of those wind turbines are ours. And then we're negotiating a project right now that would be just on the outskirts of Lancaster, a solar project with battery storage. And then more sort of closer in basin. We don't do a lot of energy because we need land, and it's got some visual issues that people don't like, but we're doing quite a lot of battery storage. That's easy to site behind a warehouse, on a brownfield. It's a much smaller footprint. So we have 7 of those projects under negotiation right now, 4 of which are in LA or Ventura counties.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have just a couple of questions.
Sure.
You spoke about FERA and CARE.
Yes.
If the city went up to 100%,
Yeah.
they would be exempt from paying, more for the 100%.
That's correct.
What about if the city went to 50%? Would they still be priced at the 36%?
No, they would not. They would get, they would also get moved up to the 50%. We could talk about keeping them at the lower rate. One of the things that our policy allows is some discretion, some administrative discretion about different customer classes and how they would be treated. So if that's something that you're interested in, we could certainly discuss that. But just to note that they would still be getting whatever rate they're on, they'd still be getting their 30% bill discount, which is what those programs offer.
Okay, great. The other thing, and I noticed you flashed it up there, your calculate and compare program.
Yes.
So if the city were to make any changes, would that be part of what you'd push out to all the residents so that they could do that?
Do that calculation
Yeah.
and exactly.
Great.
Yes, because what I'll show you what happens on the website is you see over there on the left it says rate. God, I need new glasses. And then there's service location. So people type in their city, and it automatically customizes what default rate they're on, and then they can calculate the different
Great.
options.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Questions? You have somebody here with you as well?
Yeah, so I just wanted to note Jennifer Giles here,
Jennifer.
commercial accounts. She's been working hard with Louis and others about estimates on the city, on the municipal accounts, and if those move to 100%, what the fiscal impact would be. So we have those numbers. This has those numbers. If you're interested, I will say that most cities, all with the exception of one that are on that default list, kept their accounts at the 100% green because they wanted to show their residents that they were in it too. So I'll throw that out there.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
So if we have no other questions, and Jennifer, did you want to say anything?
Well, I was just going to let you all know for your municipal accounts, you have just about 27, and the cost would be about $15,000 annually for all of those accounts to opt them up.
Sorry, I can't hear you very
Oh,
well.
the cost to opt those up would be about $15,000 annually for all of the municipal accounts that are enrolled with CPA.
Total.
Total, yeah, total for all 27, I believe there are.
That's the total number for all of them.
For all of, I'm sorry, I'm
So
confused.
for your municipal accounts that are enrolled with us, if you were to opt them up to 100%, the total cost would be about $15,000.
For all 27 accounts?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Mayor? Yes. In light of the fact that there are some deadlines coming up to make some decisions, and if we didn't move before that time, we'd have to wait a year to discuss it again. I would like to have a more robust discussion about this and what our options are. And so I would, with the council's approval, I would like to request that we agendize this again, hopefully before the April 1st deadline, which would be the next meeting. So that would be my request for the council to consider.
Okay, thank you. And I do think we have some speakers, and again, honestly, we usually don't have any speakers on this part of our agenda, so I'm going to take it a little out of order. It seems to make sense that our speakers come speak now before we move on to the next report. So if I can turn to the city clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
We do not. I
do
have it
not.
under public comment, general.
Right, and so can we go out of order? I'm thinking it's worthwhile to go out of order, go to public comments again for matters not on the agenda, and we'll go to those speakers now, and then when we finish that, we'll go back to, again, this is highly unusual for us to do this, but it seems to make sense in this circumstance. And then we'll come back to the report on the census.
Okay, I don't have any reference for CPAs, so I'll just call out the names.
Sure.
Alan Weiner, are you speaking on the CPA?
Yes,
Okay.
and it's Weiner.
Weiner, okay.
Is the guy in New York.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Hello, and thank you very much. Alan Weiner. I'm the chair of the local chapter of 350.org. The world and the country and the state and Agoura Hills are on the road to an energy transition. This is important in ways that nobody could have imagined before. And the fact that Agoura Hills is already a leader by joining the Clean Power Alliance shows the commitment and the forward vision of Agoura Hills. And now, excuse me, now it's time to take a big step and move up to 100%. There's no need to take a baby step. 100% is the way to go. I urge the council to consider this at the next meeting and vote for 100%, just the way many other cities are doing.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers for?
Christopher Young? Okay, Michelle Ellison.
Welcome, Michelle.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Ellison. I'm a resident of Ojai. I serve on the Clean Power Alliance board as an alternate director for Ojai. I'm here representing myself. I made the journey from Ojai this evening because your decision regarding the renewable energy default is a very consequential one. We are all in this climate crisis together, so your actions have an impact on our collective well-being. A little over a year ago, the UN IPCC sounded the alarm bells in a dire report warning that governments at all levels everywhere must take, quote, rapid, far-reaching, and unprecedented changes in all aspects of society, end quote, to dramatically cut emissions by 2030 if we hope to avoid climate catastrophe. The good news is that we have solutions. You, as leaders of this community, have the opportunity to immediately and significantly cut emissions in Agoura Hills simply by changing your default from 36 to 100% renewable energy. With this one decision, your roughly 21,000 residents can power their homes and businesses with 100% clean energy as early as this October. It will take your community much more time, effort, and expense to achieve this kind of progress otherwise. As Ted mentioned, 12 of the 32 member agencies in Clean Power Alliance, including my town of Ojai, have set their defaults at 100% renewable. A vast majority of those customers have stayed in at 100%. In those jurisdictions with a lower default, like yours, only a fraction have bothered to up to 100%. Defaults have immense power to affect outcomes. Industry studies reveal there's overwhelming public support for renewable energy. What's been so encouraging is the political readiness and support across party lines in the local governments that have chosen the 100% default. For example, in the city of Ventura, all 7 council members, which at the time was made up of 3 registered Republicans, 3 Democrats, and 1 independent, voted in unanimous support of 100%. And in Thousand Oaks, all 5 council members voted in favor. While the 100% green power rate costs a little bit more than the lean power rate, the renewable content is significantly more, a very compelling return and a small price to pay for the long-term benefits. We must factor in the costs associated with more polluting emissions. The perception of saving a buck or two in the short term is a dangerous illusion, as the cost of inaction will be far greater. As a reminder, those jurisdictions with 100% default, low-income customers are protected and can participate in the plan at no cost, extra cost. The 100% default isn't a rate hike, it isn't forcing anything on anyone, it's simply a suggestion. Customers still have the freedom and ability to choose another plan according to their own priorities. As was discussed, California passed legislation which targets 100% clean energy by 2045. The 100% default gives your city an opportunity to achieve that goal 25 years ahead of schedule. And, given the urgency of the climate crisis, no time is too soon. In closing, this is likely one of the biggest impact decisions you will make for your community. It would be fantastic to have Agoura Hills lead the way to a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers?
We do not.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Christopher Young.
I'd just like to make one comment. I want to just thank you for coming all the way from Ojai. That's not an easy task, so I appreciate you coming all that way.
Thank you.
That's nice to hear, because that may mean I may get some of that too. And so my name is Chris Young. I too come from Ojai. I very much appreciate just having a moment of your time. I want to be absolutely clear. I am not here with any ideas that I'm here trying to tell you in any way what to do whatsoever. I'm probably a little bit more like a cheerleader. But I also am the chairperson of the Climate Reality Project for Ventura County. And I think the things that need to be said have been said. It's certainly been a pleasure to see over this last year the cities that have stepped up and understood this. And obviously, as leaders, I would assume you all realize it's your job to have vision. And even though many of the residents of your city might not have thought these things through carefully and might not realize the enormous impact of moving, say, to 100% default renewable energy, you folks have the information. So I hope that would be your choice. And I very much appreciate you giving me this moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for driving down from Ojai tonight. We really appreciate you being here. Okay, no further speakers. So we are now going to move on to our next report. And again, you know what, let's address the issue, because I know you all want to know. We're going to address the issue right now. Does any council member have a problem with putting this on the next agenda for March 25th? Yeah, we would need a motion and a second to put that on the agenda.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to put it on our March 25th agenda.
Okay. And we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, great. So it will be on our next agenda. If you don't want to drive back, we've all met you. One of our council members not here, but she'll probably, I know her, and she will watch the meeting as it's streamed. And so just, you can send in comments if you don't want to come back. Just email us. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming in tonight. We appreciate it.
And I want to thank my fellow council members for the consideration, and thank you for the presentation, Ted. And to our speakers, I really look forward to our discussion in 2 weeks. And so you've set us up with some wonderful, a wonderful base for that. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we are going to move on, and we're going to defer to Councilmember Lopez to give us a 2020 census update.
All right. Which button do I push? The big one? The middle one? The right one. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. It's really an honor to be giving my fellow council members and the public an update on the 2020 census as it pertains to Agoura Hills. We only have a few minutes, so it's certainly not particularly in-depth and comprehensive, but I will put a list of resources at the end. Happy to answer as many questions as I can. And I've been working closely with Kimberly Rodriguez and Nate Hamburger about communications to our public. So if you all want to jump in on anything I might have missed, I welcome that. So Census 2020, the first thing I want to go over is really what it is and definitely what it isn't. So what is our census? It is quite simply the head count of every person living in the 50 states, DC, and our U.S. territories. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution to be conducted once every 10 years. So yes, the last one was 2010. It is meant to ensure that we, the government, all the way up federally, accurately represents the people. So that is the point of the census. And participation is required by law. Fun fact, the 2020 census will mark the 24th count since it was started in 1790. I have to put some nerd stuff in there because that's the fun stuff. Okay, and I also want to just quickly go over a few of the misconceptions and highlight what the census is not. I want to make it clear there are no questions about citizenship on the census. There is no question about any personal financial information, anything that could jeopardize your identity, like social security number, your bank account. You're not going to be asked for money or donations. Anything like that is not a part of the census, of course. And you don't need to have a permanent home to participate. We have college students who are all over the place right now, as Councilmember Anstead and I know. We've got college students being affected by coronavirus. We don't know where they're going to be living on April 1st, but we'll play that when we get there. But also, it will count homeless. It will count people who live in mobile homes and motor homes. So you don't have to have a permanent home. And again, no personal information can be shared with any other agency. So nobody shares anything with personal information with your landlord, with any immigration services. Everything is an aggregate. Nothing is personal. Okay. So why does the census matter? Okay, well, there are various reasons why we really have to get the word out and ensure that our population participates. One big reason is that representation is determined by the 2020 census. So our counts will determine the number of seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, Congress, and it's also how our state districts are formed. So it is really imperative that we want an accurate count so that we're accurately represented. And the other major reason why it's important for everyone to participate is we have financial and other resources that are attached to census results. So billions of dollars are going to be flowing from the federal level down to the local level, and our numbers will affect the resources that we might get for roads, schools, healthcare services, emergency services, and quite literally hundreds of other programs locally. I'll go through a quick timeline, and then we'll talk about Agoura Hills' timeline in a bit. But in general, starting very, very soon, as early as tomorrow, through next week, we are going to start getting mail. We're going to start getting postcards and letters from the Census Bureau to lead us up to Census Day, which that we're hoping for is for everyone to respond to the census, and we'll explain how, by April 1st. So we're going to be getting things in the mail really for the rest of this month. April 1st is the official census day that we'd like everyone to respond by. And then things are going to start to get into motion if there is no response by April 1st. So we'll talk about the ways that you can respond to the census, but if you don't do that by April 1st, then a hard copy will be sent to you in the mail, more reminder postcards, and then starting in May, going into the summer, home visits will be conducted by census representatives to those who have not responded. So yes, a knock on the door. These are some additional census dates. Again, this is far from inclusive, but just so that you can see that some of other populations are being considered. There's going to be a homeless count March 30th through April 1st, and college students will be contacted if they're not living at home, whether they're on or off campus. And then, of course, we have all these group facilities like healthcare centers, senior centers, group housing. Those will be counted to ensure that it's an accurate count, that everyone is counted. So I'll give you a few of the questions that you will be seeing on the census. Oops. And the big thing is how many people are living under one roof on April 1st. So that's the main question. The type of residence that you are in, house, apartment, mobile home. And yes, they're going to ask you who lives there, the name, the sex, the date of birth, the race, ethnic group of each person. And again, I want to stress that this is not to disseminate individual answers, it's to get an aggregate so that we can ensure that the correct resources are coming down to us depending on all of those questions. Okay, how can you respond? Well, online is going to be the easiest way, and you can either answer at home on your home computer, or we will have an opportunity to do so at the Agoura Hills Library, so you could come and do it there. You can actually do it by phone, and of course you can do it by mail, and detailed instructions that talk about all of these different ways will be part of the mailings that will arrive to us in March. So, what is the city of Agoura's role? Well, we are not considered a hard-to-count area. So all over LA County, which is kind of locally run through the county, we're not considered hard to count. So why is that? Because we have a majority English-speaking population, and those who are not English as a first language speak a major language like Spanish, not a very remote. There was one person in a room that in a meeting I went to where they had a very big Swedish population. So we don't have anything like that in Agoura Hills demographically. We are not physically isolated. We're very easy to get to. We have mostly traditional housing. We don't have a lot of turnover. We're not overly transitional or hard to locate. And another big important thing to note is that we do have a high percentage of residents who have internet access. So they're reachable and they can respond. So that's great that we're not hard to count, but what that means is that we don't get additional funding for any outreach from the higher levels of government. Understandably, they're putting their resources into areas where they really need extra help reaching their population. Whoop. So our role is to get the word out. And again, I've been working with staff, doing a great job, really getting the word out via email. We have our email database through CMail, social media. We've got some print advertising in the Acorn, I think, is coming up. And of course, we're working with the Las Virgenes Malibu Council of Governments because we're all in the same boat. We want 100% participation. I won't go over this in detail, but you can see this is a snapshot of our internal calendar. You can see in the upper right, we've got some joint logos that we've got with the county. And you can see we're trying to put it out there all over the place, print, electronic, and of course this is available to watch on the internet or on the channel. Okay, so if you go either to our website, county, state, or federal, there is a ton of information. They have great videos that explain the census. They have PDFs that you can download and post, fact sheets. There's so much information from all of these different areas. So I welcome you to go on any of those and search, and you will be sure to get your questions answered. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that. Do we have any questions from council members? Okay. And now flipping back to public comments. Do we have any public comments, any speaker cards on this matter?
We do not.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that was a great job. Thank you very much. And there was 2 points that I just really want to drive home. One, participation is required by law, and also there will be no questions about citizenship. And I would just really encourage people throughout the city and anybody watching this to be sure to let your neighbors, your friends know if they have any concerns about not participating in the census because of a citizenship question. It was an issue that was raised last year. The courts ruled that that question will not be on the census. So just remind people so that they know, so that again, we're aiming for 100% participation. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so now we are going to move on to consent calendar. I'm going to defer to the city clerk for public comment. Any speakers?
We do not have any speaker cards.
Thank you. Do we have any council members who want something pulled off of the consent calendar or have any questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to call for a motion, a second, to adopt the consent calendar.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no opposition, the consent calendar has passed. We'll now go to City Council staff comments. Let me start with staff. Do you have any comments for tonight? Okay, how about council members? Councilmember Lopez?
I do. I wanted to let my fellow council members know, as well as our staff, that after a very difficult discussion today. We have decided to cancel the St. Patrick's Day celebration at the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center. Very sad about that, but the LA County Department of Public Health is asking that if it's a non-essential event that is more than 50 people, to consider canceling. That's what their recommendation is. So we had hundreds of runners. Sometimes we get over 1,000 people, and it's really the highlight of the year, but we have to do what's prudent for our population and our residents and our community members. So that announcement will go out to everyone probably tomorrow morning, but I wanted to let you know that that decision was made today to pull it.
Question for you, does that include the run? The run's been canceled as well?
The run is going to be canceled as well. It's kind of in motion right now, and I think the formal announcement to the runners and everyone will go out in the morning, but that's been the decision.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Anstead?
I think, I mean, obviously, I want to just say for those people in our community that do have underlying conditions and that are over 65, make sure that they're kind of heeding the advice from the public health authorities and being careful if they do go out, or I would encourage them to stay around their home and to try to avoid public spaces as been advised by the public health authorities. I just wanted to make sure that we at least said something about that. I don't know if you had anything that you were going to talk about, but I wanted to make sure that I said something and for the rest of our residents to practice good hygiene and make sure we wash our hands often and continue to watch for updates from local health authorities and from our state as well. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of things to say. It's gala season, but now we've made it through gala season without having to cancel any of them, but thank you to Community Conscience for their annual gala. I attended that one, as well as last weekend was the Chambers, and Mr. Haverstock spoke about it earlier, and both were wonderful, and they both do a good job. And Community Conscience is a very important organization in the Conejo Valley and raises money and houses 13 different nonprofits that help people in need. So both of those were good. March has been a busy month. It's Women in History Month. It's also International Women's Day. Today we attended an event at the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District through an International Women's Day luncheon, and both myself and Alicia Weintraub, the mayor of Calabasas, and Kelly Honig, the mayor of Westlake Village, we all attended, we all spoke, we had a good time. There was both men and women there, and it was a lot of fun, so we enjoyed that. It's also, people are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the suffrage movement, which gave women it led to the adoption of the 19th Amendment to our Constitution, giving women the right to vote. So we've been doing a lot of public speaking, the other mayors and I, because people want to hear from women mayors now that women have the right to vote. So it's really been enjoyable. A busy time, but a lot of fun. To chime in a little with what Councilmember Anstead said, I want to reassure our residents that we have been on, not daily, but weekly at least, every few days, calls with the LA County Department of Health. Today we were on a call with the White House, and we are following and paying attention and getting the word out about the coronavirus. I want everyone to be rest assured that the city is doing everything it can do. We've been cleaning City Hall. We've been cleaning the event center more than we usually do. We have hand sanitizer, and we're taking all the precautions that we can do. And I hope that you too at home will do that. And that the two most important things that we can do is wash your hands. Wash your hands. What I have learned through this process is the water does not need to be hot. It can be cold. People are saying if you sing happy birthday to yourself 2 times, that's about the length that you want to be washing your hands for. And then the other thing is, if you don't feel well, please don't go to work and don't go out. There's nothing more important than containing this virus and keeping our communities healthy. So we're hoping that employers are flexible about having employees work at home, and those really are the 2 biggest things that we can be doing as individuals. So I'm completely confident that the city of Agoura Hills, our residents will come through this. They're very resilient. We made it through the Woolsey fire, and we're going to make it through coronavirus. So was that a cough I heard? No. She's out. Just kidding. No, we're just being extremely careful, and if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to call City Hall. We can answer all of your questions. So thank you very much. And that is all that I have to say. So I want to announce that we have a special goal-setting meeting of the City Council is scheduled for 4 p.m. on Wednesday, March 25th, 2020 in the community room. The next regular meeting of the City Council is scheduled for 6 p.m. Wednesday, March 25th, 2020 in the council chambers with a closed session at 5 p.m. So now I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I seeing no opposition, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, hang on a second. I have somebody to introduce, if you'll just give me a second. Julia Cristiano, if you can just wave. Julia had contacted me a while ago. She's an Oak Park High School student, and she wanted to shadow me while I do all my work for the city. And I said, well, that would be rather boring. If you want to come shadow me as a lawyer, that's what I do during the day. And there might be phone calls and emails here and there. So, but we did come up with the idea that she came to tonight's meeting, and she joined me at the luncheon today, so she got to hear all of the mayors speak. And so I hope you got something out of it. And like I told you today, our generation, we're looking to your generation. And we hope that you will move everything forward on this planet. So keep up the good work. And with that, we are adjourned.